The last light is leaving the hills. The sky above the downs has gone from gold to amber to the deep, soft blue that comes just before dark. The first stars are appearing. The air has cooled. The birds have gone quiet. In a village on the edge of the chalk uplands in southern England, a man named Cuthbert is finishing his work. He is a shepherd, a keeper of sheep. His flock belongs to the manor, but the animals are, in every practical sense, his. Each day, he moves them. From the pen at dawn to the grazing ground. Watching. Walking. Knowing each animal by sight. And at the end of each day, there is a ritual. The driving in. The counting. The closing of the hurdle fence. The long final walk back across the grass as the sky darkens above the downs. Tonight, like every night, Cuthbert will pen his flock at dusk. Let us join him as the light fades. The grazing ground is a broad slope of chalk downland above the village. Smooth grass, close-cropped. The sheep have kept it this way for generations, their ancestors and their ancestors' ancestors, moving across this same hillside, maintaining the same short, dense turf. The ground is dry tonight. The September grass pale gold in the fading light. The chalk showing through in places where the soil is thin, bright white patches scattered across the hillside like scattered salt. Below, the village. A cluster of timber and thatch. A church tower of pale stone. Smoke beginning to rise from hearth fires as households start their suppers. Above, the sky opening into evening. Wide and high and deepening. The air smells of chalk dust and grass and the particular clean smell of sheep, lanolin and fleece, warm bodies moving slowly across the hillside. Cuthbert stands at the edge of the flock. He is a man in his late 30s. Lean and weathered. Brown from years of days outdoors. His face is the face of someone who has spent most of his life squinting at distant things, the horizon, the sky, individual animals at the edge of a flock. He carries a long staff of ash wood. Smooth at the grip. Worn to his hand over years of use. He is watching the sky to the west. Time to bring them in. He moves to the far edge of the flock. This is how it starts, every evening. Position himself uphill and to the south, the direction the sheep least naturally want to travel. Then move them gently, steadily, toward the pen downslope. The sheep know what is happening. They have done this every evening of their lives. They are not eager to go in. Sheep rarely cooperate with complete willingness, but neither do they resist with urgency. They drift. They cluster and separate and cluster again. They are moved. Cuthbert uses his staff and his voice and his body. Small gestures. A step to the left redirects the nearest animals. A short call, a particular low sound he has been making since he learned shepherding from his uncle, communicates direction without alarm. His dog, Moss, works the right flank. Moss is a brown and gray bitch of about 5 years. She moves low and fast and precise. She does not need instruction for most of this. She knows the pen. She knows the work. She has made this drive hundreds of times. They work together without speaking. They have had the same conversation so often that silence is sufficient. The flock begins to move. There are 112 sheep in Cuthbert's flock. He knows this exactly. He has counted them this morning, as he does every morning, touching each animal mentally as his eyes pass over them. It is a skill developed over years, a kind of visual arithmetic that can take in a moving mass of animals and arrive at a number. 112 this morning. He will count them into the pen tonight. They move as a body. Not a single body, more like a river. There is flow and there are eddies, animals that lag or drift sideways. The body moves, but within it there is constant individual adjustment. He watches the flow. One ewe near the front is limping slightly. She was sound this morning. He noticed it this afternoon. Right foreleg. The walk is not bad, she's weight-bearing, but it wants attention. He'll check her when they're penned. The flock descends the slope. There are sheep in this flock Cuthbert could describe individually. Not all of them. 100 animals do not become 100 distinct individuals, any more than a field of wheat becomes 1,000 distinct stalks. But many of them. The ones with odd markings. The ones with particular habits or characters. The old ewe at the center of the flock, he calls her in his own mind simply the dark one, is the animal the others orient toward when unsettled. She has been with the flock for 8 years. She is steady and phlegmatic, and the younger animals cluster near her in wind or rain. 2 lambs from this spring who have never quite separated from each other. They go where the other goes. They have been this way since the first week. A ram at the back who always positions himself last. Not slow, not weak, just consistently last, as if he's appointed himself to guard the rear. These animals are not his. They belong to the Lord of the manor, and before that to the manor itself, and before that to whoever farmed this land and grazed it. But in every way that matters day to day, they are Cuthbert's flock. He is responsible for them. He knows them. This is his work, and they are the substance of it. Moss drops back to push the stragglers. 3 young sheep have drifted left, distracted by a patch of particularly appealing grass at the field's edge. Moss moves to them with efficient purpose, not barking, not aggressive, just a steady presence at their flank that communicates, clearly, that the grass is not the plan. They rejoin the flock. Cuthbert watches this with quiet satisfaction. He has had 4 dogs in his working life. The first, before he could be called a proper shepherd, was his uncle's dog. He merely observed. Then his own, the first a red dog named Teg who lived to 11. Then a black bitch who died young of an illness in the chest, a loss that surprised him with its weight. And now Moss. Moss is the best of them. Not the most affectionate, not the most eager to please, but the most capable. She thinks ahead. When the flock is unsettled, she positions herself before the problem develops rather than after. He got her from a farmer to the north when she was 8 months old. He had nothing to do with her breeding or her earliest training. She came to him already half-formed, and the rest he had done with her over 5 years. She does not look at him for approval when she works. She simply works. He respects this. The pen stands at the bottom of the field, against the long hedgerow of hawthorn. It is built of hurdles, portable wooden panels woven from split hazel rods, each one about 4 feet high and 6 feet long. They are staked into the ground and overlapped at the corners. Enough panels to form an enclosure large enough for the whole flock to stand without crowding. This is not the permanent winter fold, which is stonewalled and roofed in part. That is in the village, close to the barn. This pen is temporary. He moves it every few weeks, working across the field in strips, so that the dung falls evenly and the soil benefits uniformly. The Lord's Reeve understands the value of this. Some do not. This one does. The pen has one opening, facing east, toward the village. Cuthbert will close it with a final panel once all the sheep are inside. He gets ahead of the flock and holds the opening wide. The first sheep, the dark one, enters without hesitation. The others follow. Cuthbert stands at the opening as the flock flows in. He counts. The words he uses are old, older than his grandfather's grandfather. The counting words shepherds use in this part of England are not quite the words of ordinary speech. They are a private language of number, worn smooth by generations of use. 1, 2, 3. He counts in the old way, moving through the numbers in a low murmur that is almost below speech. His lips move. His attention is entirely focused. Sheep press through the gap in clusters and singles. His count adapts. He knows not to rush it. The flow slows. He moves to look. 3 animals still in the field, 2 lingerers in moss, waiting at a patient distance. He calls them in. The 2 sheep enter. Moss follows, quick and neat, and positions herself inside the pen at the far corner, her eyes moving over the flock. Cuthbert completes the count. 112. He exhales. All present. All in. He moves into the pen. The sheep part for him without panic. They know him. His smell. His walk. The way he moves among them. A stranger entering a sheep pen creates alarm. Cuthbert entering one creates almost nothing. They simply adjust around him. He makes his way toward the right foreleg. The limping ewe is near the center of the pen. She is a ewe of middling age, for years, perhaps 5, with a pale face and a darker patch behind her left ear. He's known her since she was a lamb. He crouches beside her. Runs his hand down her right foreleg. She stands still. Sheep that know a shepherd's touch stand still for examination. It is the ones that don't know you that flee. He lifts the foot. There it is. A small stone wedged in the cleft of the hoof. Not deep. Not embedded. Just a stone, lodged in the fold of soft tissue, pressing with each step. He works it free with a thumb. It comes out easily. A small dark pebble. He sets her foot down. She takes a step. Sound. Completely sound. He holds the stone for a moment, then drops it. A small thing. A nothing. 30 seconds of attention, and an animal that was limping is now not limping. This is the work. He makes his way back to the opening. Takes the final hurdle panel from where it leans against the hawthorn hedge. Setting the closing panel requires a certain technique. The stakes of the adjacent panels must be offset to allow the closing panel to overlap them properly. The whole structure is held together by tension and weight, not by nails or fastening, each panel leaning against the next, the corners reinforcing each other. He sets it in. Adjusts the overlap on the left side. A slight correction on the right. Tests it. Pushes along the top rail with both hands. Solid. He drives a final stake into the ground at the center of the closing panel for security. The mallet hangs from his belt. He uses it in 3 firm strokes. The stake goes into the September ground without much resistance. The earth is dry but not hard. The pen is closed. Inside, the flock settles. The sound shifts, from the movement of hooves and bodies against each other to the lower, quieter sound of animals becoming still. Breathing. Chewing the cud. Arranging themselves for the night. He stands outside the pen and listens. The sound of a settled flock at night is one of the quieter sounds there is. Not silence, there is the soft percussion of hooves on grass, the occasional low call, the rhythmic tearing sound of an animal cropping the sparse grass inside the pen. But the collective impression is of deep, distributed calm. 112 animals, finding their positions for the night. Cuthbert knows this sound as well as he knows his own breathing. It means all is well. A different sound, alarm calls, the rush of hooves, the high frightened bleat, means something is wrong. But this sound means nothing is wrong. He stands with it for a moment. The sky overhead is fully dark now except for the last trace of light along the western horizon. A thin line of deep amber, fading as he watches. Stars coming out above the downs. The village lights below him, firelight, mostly. Orange windows in the dark. He turns toward home. The path from the pen to the village is worn to bare earth. Generations of shepherds and livestock have made it. It follows the natural line of the slope, not the shortest route, but the easiest gradient. Cuthbert's feet know every inch of it. Moss walks ahead of him, just off the left of the path. She is done working now. Her manner changes when the work is finished, not dramatically, but perceptibly. The sharp alertness softens. She moves at a traveling pace rather than a working pace. She is, in some sense Cuthbert has come to recognize, relaxed. He is too. The air is cooling fast now. He can feel it on his face, that September chill that falls quickly after sunset on the downs, the warmth leaving the chalk as soon as the sun does. He pulls his cloak tighter. Not cold. Brisk. He walks. The grass is invisible now except as a pale shape against the darker earth of the path. His feet know where the path is. He has walked this in full dark before, in summer storms, in fog. He does not need to see it clearly. About the flock. His mind moves back across the day. He'd moved them to the upper south field this morning. The grass there had been untouched for a fortnight, a deliberate rest period, and when he drove them onto it, the flock spread out with the focused energy of animals encountering good grazing. He'd watched them from the shade of the boundary hedge. This is much of what the work is. Watching. Not passive watching, engaged watching. Tracking how the animals move across the pasture, which areas they favor, which they avoid. Understanding the grass. The upper south field will need another 3 weeks before it's ready again. The lower east field, where they'd been for 2 days prior, will need longer, the growth was poor there and the animals had cropped it hard. He carries these calculations. A map of the fields and their recovery time, perpetually updated. Where can the flock go next week? The week after? The manor depends on him to manage not just the animals but the land itself. Overgrazing destroys a field's capacity for years. Undergrazing wastes the resource. The balance is always moving. He knows it. That was lost. He thinks about the lamb last spring. The third week of lambing, the hardest stretch, when he and the lambing boy had been sleeping in shifts at the fold. 14 days of waking every few hours. Checking on ewes near their time. Helping when the help was needed. A lamb that had been born in the night, in the far corner of the fold, that he'd missed an account. He'd found it at first light, cold and barely alive, separated from its mother, which had not bonded with it in the first hour. He'd carried it inside his cloak for an hour, sharing his body heat. The lamb had lived. It was in the flock now. He'd know it anywhere, a distinctive black ear, otherwise all white. He'd watched it grow from a half-dead thing in his arms to a yearling that moved through the flock with complete unself-consciousness. It did not know what had happened. Lambs never do. He thinks about this occasionally. The things you do that the ones you do them for cannot understand or recognize. It seems like it should bother him. It doesn't. The path meets the village lane at a stile on a low stone wall. Cuthbert climbs it. Moss slips through the gap beside the post. The lane is narrow and rutted. Beaten earth between the houses. Darker now than the open hillside, the houses on either side block the sky. A few people still out. The alewife's husband, coming from the well. He nods at Cuthbert. Cuthbert nods back. No words needed. A child runs across the lane ahead of them, disappearing into a doorway. Someone calling after them, a mother's voice, half complaint, half not actually worried. The smells of the village at evening, the particular deep smell of domestic animals in their pens, cooking, smoke, the privy smell that is simply part of any place where people live closely together. Cuthbert has never thought these smells unpleasant. They are simply the smell of the village. His village. The smell of home. He turns left at the church wall. A few more doors down. The house is a single-story structure of timber and wattle and daub, thatched overhead. It is not large. One main room where the family eats and sits, a smaller sleeping space partitioned off at one end, a lean-to on the south side that serves as storage and where Moss sleeps on cold nights. Orange firelight visible through the cracks around the door. He lifts the latch. Warmth and the smell of supper. His wife, Edith, is at the hearthstone, turning something in the pot. She looks up. "Good," she says. Not a question. An acknowledgement. "Good," he confirms. This exchange has the compressed quality of long familiarity. It means, all is well, the flock is in, the day is done, I am here. 2 words carrying a conversation. His daughter Agnes, 9 years old, is sitting against the far wall with a piece of thread she is winding onto a small wooden frame. She does not look up immediately. Then she does. Smiles. Returns to her thread. His son, Robin, 11, is absent. At the neighbor's house, probably. Playing. Cuthbert sets his staff by the door. He is home. There is a basin on the shelf near the door. He pours water into it from the jug beside it. The water is cold. Not unpleasantly, the September evening is not warm, but he has been walking, and the cold water against his face and hands feels right. He washes the day off. The dust of the path. The chalk from the hillside. The smell of lanolin that clings to his hands from handling the animals. He does not get entirely clean. This is not the purpose. The purpose is the transition, from the field to the house, from working man to man in his home. The water marks the threshold. He dries his hands on the cloth hanging by the basin. Moves to the hearth. Moss has settled herself in the corner of the lean-to, which opens off the main room. He can see her there, curled, eyes already closing. She is done for the day. He pulls a low stool near the fire and sits. The fire in the central hearth is a peat and wood fire. It burns differently from the wood fires of the bakehouse down the lane. Lower, slower, more red than orange. It gives heat steadily and patiently and does not roar. There is no chimney. The smoke rises to the apex of the roof, where a louvre of woven sticks and thatch creates a partial opening. Some smoke escapes there. Some lingers above head height in a layer that has stained the thatch and the rafters a deep amber brown. Cuthbert has breathed this smoke all his life. It is part of the smell of the house in the same way that the chalk is part of the smell of the hillside. The fire is well banked. Edith has been managing it all day while he was on the hill. It wants for nothing. He stares into it. There is something in watching a fire that requires no effort and returns something. He has stared into fires like this on 10,000 evenings. He does not get tired of it. The fire is always the same and never the same. Edith hands him a wooden bowl. Pottage. Thick with beans and root vegetables, turnip, parsnip, with a small amount of salt pork cut into pieces. The bread beside the bowl is yesterday's, still good. She sits across the fire from him with her own bowl. They eat without much conversation. This is not coldness, it is the particular quiet of two people who have lived together long enough that the absence of words is itself a form of communication. The day has been its day. The food is the food. They are both here. Agnes has stopped winding her thread and is eating too. Robin comes in, later, breathless and smelling of the outside. Edith gives him his bowl without comment. He eats standing, at first. Then he sits, feeling the weight of the evening. The family around the fire. The pottage is good. Not elaborate. Nourishing and warm and the right thing for the end of a long day outdoors. He eats slowly. There is nowhere to be. His son has a question. He always has a question. Robin is a boy who thinks out loud and lives externally, everything noticed, everything commented upon. He is unlike his father in this way, and unlike his mother. Where he comes from, in this regard, neither of them can say. Father, why don't sheep go in by themselves at night? They know the way. Cuthbert considers this. They know the way, he says. They don't know the time. Robin considers this in turn. But they know when it's dark. They know when it's dark. They don't know what to do about it without being shown. But you've shown them every night for years. A sheep, Cuthbert says, doesn't learn that way. Each evening is its own evening. They don't carry yesterday forward. Robin looks faintly dissatisfied with this answer. Not hostile to it, thoughtful. As if checking it against what he knows of the world. That sounds difficult, he says. It might, Cuthbert says. Or it might be perfectly fine, and we're the difficult ones. Robin thinks about this. Then nods, apparently deciding it is a satisfying answer. Agnes makes a sound that might be a laugh. She goes back to her thread. The bowls are cleared. Edith takes them to the basin, wipes them clean, sets them on the shelf. The fire settles. The household enters the part of the evening that is neither work nor sleep, the hour or so between the end of supper and the beginning of bed. In winter, this hour contracts, the dark comes early and cold and the family retreats to sleep sooner. In summer, it expands, they sit in the last of the outdoor light and the evening stretches pleasantly. September is between. The evening is long enough but not summer long. Agnes has gone back to her thread. Cuthbert suspects she is making something for someone, but she has not said what and he has not asked. Let it be hers until she decides otherwise. Robin is throwing a small wooden ball against the wall and catching it. Thump. Pause. Thump. Edith has taken up some mending, a shirt of Robin's with a split seam. Cuthbert leans back on his stool against the wall. He is tired in the specific, complete way of a man who has been outside all day. Not unpleasant. The tiredness of having done a day's work. Through the walls, the village at evening. It is its own kind of sound. Not the open sound of the hillside, wind, birds, the distant noise of the flock. Closer. More specific. Two neighbors arguing, voices raised, then lower. A dispute about something, he can't make out what. The church bell, ringing Compline. The evening prayer. 7 strokes. A dog barking once, then stopping. A cart somewhere. Wheels on the ruts of the lane. Then, for a stretch, nothing particular. Just the low ambient presence of 200 people settling into their houses for the night. Cuthbert has heard this through these walls for his whole married life. He and Edith have lived in this house since they married, 16 years. Before that, he lived in his father's house at the other end of the village. He has heard the village's sounds at evening for all of his life. It is the sound of home in the largest sense. Not just his house. The whole place. He lets it settle over him. About the weather. The autumn is coming. He has felt it this week. The mornings colder. The dew heavier on the grass when he takes the flock out. The light lower and more slanted by mid-morning. The sheep's fleece, already thickening for winter. The weather matters to Cuthbert in ways it does not matter to men who work inside. Not just as a comfort or discomfort, but as information. Wind direction tells him where the flock will want to face. Cloud cover tells him about the next day. The smell of the air in the morning tells him things he cannot entirely explain. This week has been clear and dry. September in England will not hold dry for long. He expects rain by the end of the week. Not a storm. Just the soft, steady rain that the west wind brings off the sea. It will soak through his wool cloak by midday. The flock will cluster on the high ground where the drainage is good. He will be wet by evening. This is not a complaint. It is simply the likely sequence of events, which he holds in his mind as a working proposition the way a man holds a tool. When the rain comes, he'll know what to do. Edith looks at Agnes. Agnes looks back. Something passes between them, the particular silent negotiation between a mother and a child at the end of an evening. Agnes gathers her thread and her frame. "Good night," she says to the room. "Good night," Cuthbert says. She disappears through the partition into the sleeping space. He can hear her moving around in there, the creak of the straw mattress, the sounds of someone settling. Then quiet. He has found this particular sound, a child going to sleep, one of the most reassuring sounds he knows. Not because he worries about them. Simply because it means the household is becoming still. The generation behind him, resting. The day completing itself in the ordinary, good way. Agnes will be awake again tomorrow. And the day after. And for years and years of days after that, God willing. That is not nothing. That is everything, really. Moss has moved. She has come in from the lean-to and is lying now at the edge of the hearth light. Not begging, just present. She has arranged herself with her back to the wall and her face toward the room, her eyes half open. Cuthbert looks at her. She looks back. There is a particular quality to the way a working dog rests at the end of a long day. Not the loose, oblivious sleep of an animal with nothing to account for. Something more like thoughtful repose. She is resting, but some part of her is still listening, still tracking the sounds inside and outside the house. He has never been entirely certain how much Moss understands of what she does. She clearly plans. She clearly anticipates. She responds to his moods in ways that suggest she is reading him with some precision. What that amounts to in her experience, he cannot know. But she is tired tonight in a way he recognizes from himself. A particular quality of stillness. She worked hard on the drive, harder than some evenings. The flock had been restless on the hillside, unsettled by something he never identified, and the herding had required more active management than usual. She is resting now because she earned it. Robin. Edith doesn't need to say more than that. Robin has been throwing his ball with decreasing energy for the past quarter of an hour. His body knows what his will hasn't yet conceded. He makes the sound that boys make when asked to end what they are doing. Not quite protest. More like an official statement of preference. Take the ball, his mother says, which means go to bed. You can bring it with you, don't argue. Robin takes the ball. Nods to his father. "Good night, Robin," Cuthbert says. "Good night, father." He goes through the partition. Cuthbert can hear him talking to Agnes briefly. She says something back. Then, settling sounds. The creak of the straw. A brief exchange. Then silence. Both of them asleep within minutes, probably. Children who've had full days close their eyes and are simply gone. He and Edith sit in the quieter house. The fire needs attention. Edith adds a peat block to the right side. She does this with the kind of casual precision of someone who has tended the same hearth for years, not measuring, just knowing. The fire settles around the new fuel. They sit on either side of it. Edith has set down her mending. She folds it over her knee. "The limping one," he says. "The pale-faced one? A stone in the hoof. She's fine now." Edith nods. She knows the flock almost as well as he does, not from spending time with them, but from 16 years of listening to him discuss them. She has learned through him. "All in," she says. 112. Another nod. This is the accounting of the day. Brief and sufficient. He doesn't need to explain the weight of what it means to close a flock at night with all of them present, and she doesn't need it explained. She knows. They sit in the warm house. He thinks, for a moment, about the reeve. The manor's reeve had been up on the hill last week, checking the flock's condition, tallying the animals, making his accounting for the Lord. The reeve was a man Cuthbert got on with. Fair, methodical, a farmer himself before he took the position. He understood what a shepherd's work actually involved. He'd looked at the flock, walked among them, asked Cuthbert 3 or 4 questions about the condition of the animals and the state of the pastures. Cuthbert had answered honestly. The reeve had gone away satisfied. This matters. Not because Cuthbert needs approval, he knows the state of the flock better than any reeve ever will, but because the working relationship between a shepherd and the manor's management determines how the work is actually done. A reeve who trusts the shepherd leaves him alone to do the work. A reeve who doesn't creates friction, interference, decisions made by men who don't understand the animals. Cuthbert has worked under both kinds. The current arrangement is better. He is grateful for it in a practical, unromantic way. The best of the shepherd's year, in many ways, is behind him. The lambing in the spring, exhausting, but the most immediate work, the one that matters most. A healthy lambing season determines everything that follows. The shearing in early summer. 3 days of concentrated labor, he and 2 hired shearers and the lambing boy, the whole flock handled. His hands aching for a week after. Then the long months of grazing. Moving the flock. The steady rhythm of the summer days. Now September, and the hardest months ahead. The winter. Winter shepherding in England is something that is difficult to explain to someone who hasn't done it. Mud. Cold. The flock requiring more management as the pastures fail and feeding from the barn stores must supplement the grazing. Illness is more common. Losses are more common. He will not lose animals that he can help. But some will be lost despite him. He has made his peace with this over the years. Not indifference, care, but not the illusion of control. The animals are alive because of care. Some will die despite it. These two facts coexist. He does what he can. He should go out once more before sleep. Walk to the pen. He knows the flock is fine. He counted them in. He heard them settle. There is no reason to expect otherwise. But he will go. He does, almost every night. He says to Edith, "I'll check." She nods. She has never tried to talk him out of it. He takes a rush light, a simple tallow-dipped rush in a holder, the cheapest form of portable light, and opens the door. The night air. Cool and clean and carrying the smell of the hillside. Grass and chalk and the faint lanolin that drifts down from the pen even at this distance. Stars absolutely clear. No moon yet, it will rise later. He breathes it in. The village is quiet. A dog somewhere, not barking with urgency. The light from 2 or 3 other houses still. He walks up the lane toward the field. The lane is dark. His rush light makes a small warm circle. Beyond its edge, the shapes of things, hedgerows, the stone wall of the churchyard, the outline of the hill against the starred sky. He knows this path in daylight and darkness. In the field, the grass is invisible but present beneath his feet. The slope rises gently. Ahead, the pale shapes of the pen hurdles catch the faint starlight. He slows as he approaches. No alarm from Moss, who has risen and is pacing him at the edge of the rush light circle. No disturbance from the flock. He reaches the pen. Looks over the top rail. Pale shapes. The flock sleeping or standing. The low sound of collective breathing. The occasional small shift of a body in the dark. All present. He stands at the pen for a moment. Listening. Nothing wrong. Everything as it should be. This is what he came for. Not new information, confirmation. The reassurance that what was well when he left is still well. He turns back toward the village. The stars are dense above the downs. More stars than can be counted. More than any person has ever counted or named. He does not know the names of them. There are men who do, men of learning, men who study such things. He is not one of them. But he knows the sky in a practical sense. He knows the pattern of the bright ones. He knows which star sits always in the north, the one sailors navigate by and shepherds use to orient themselves in fog or dark. He knows roughly where in the year he is by the position of the clusters. He learned this the same way he learned everything, slowly, by being outside night after night for many years, until the sky became known to him the way the fields are known to him. He does not call it knowledge. It is simply familiarity. He walks back down the path. Moss at his side. The village below, mostly dark now. A few windows still. Most people already in bed. He is later than usual tonight. He had stayed at the pen a little longer. He lifts the latch. Edith is still awake, near the fire. She has resumed the mending. She looks up. Well, she says. Quiet. All fine. She nods. Sets down the mending. I heard the church bell a while ago, she says. Late. Was it? Not so late. She's not scolding. Simply noting. He sets the rush light down on the hearthstone. The fire has settled since he left, lower, more ember than flame. The room is still warm. The warmth of a house that has held a fire all day, the walls themselves carrying heat. He sits. Moss has gone back to the lean-to. He heard her settle herself as he came through. The house is quiet. Edith finishes the mending. She folds the shirt, set it on the pile by the wall. Done, she says. To herself, or to him, or just to the room. He is watching the fire. The peat block she added has burned down to a low red mass. Would smoke smell earthier than wood alone? Warm and dim in particular. He is fully tired now. Not fighting it. Just present with it. The tiredness is in his legs and his feet and the muscles of his back from 8 hours of walking over uneven ground. In his eyes from a day of watching the flock against the bright hillside. In some less locatable part of him where the thinking and the managing and the attending lives. All of it is settling. The day is almost done. There is nothing left that needs doing. The flock is in. The pen is closed. He is checked. The fire is banked. The children are asleep. The work of tomorrow will come tomorrow. Tonight is closing. He thinks about the flock out there. 112 sheep, sleeping inside the hurdle fence on the slope above the village. Some are standing, probably. Sheep don't all lie down at once. There are always animals on their feet, alert, moving slightly. It is how the flock maintains its awareness of the dark. Others are lying. The ewes with their legs folded under them. Some pressed against each other for warmth. The dark one is in the center, probably. She is always in the center when the flock is settled. The 2 lambs who follow each other everywhere, they are lying together somewhere in the mass. The ram at the rear, standing. He can picture it almost exactly. He has seen it so often. The night flock in its pen. Settled. Alive. He will see it again in the morning when he drives them out. But there is something about knowing it is there, behind the dark hillside, beyond the village wall, just out of sight but present. 112 lives, safe in the enclosure he built and closed tonight. It is his work and it is holding. Agnes is making something for the miller's wife, Edith says. The thread work. He'd wondered. She asked me not to tell you. I'm telling you because she'll show you herself in a few days when it's done and she'll want to know if you noticed she was working on it. He considers this. And now I'll know before she shows me. You'll know that she worked on it. You won't know what it looks like. That part will still be a surprise. He finds this entirely reasonable. Agnes is like this. She works at things privately and then shares them when she's ready. She is not secretive by nature. She simply finishes before she shows. He respects this about her. It is a kind of integrity. She's good with thread, he says. She's very good, Edith agrees. Better than me at her age. Better than me now. Probably. There is nothing but pride in this. No jealousy. Simply the accurate assessment of a mother who sees her daughter clearly. He nods. For a while they say nothing. The fire settles. Moss is asleep in the lean-to. He can hear her breathing through the opening. The slow, deep breathing of a tired dog. The children are asleep. The village is almost silent. He and Edith sit on their stools on either side of the dimming hearth. This is, in some sense, the best part of the day. Not the most active. Not the most interesting. But the best. The part where everything is done and nothing more is required, and it is simply the two of them, warm, together, with the day behind them. They have sat like this for 16 years. He hopes they sit like this for many years more. He does not say this. He does not need to. She knows it, probably, in the same way he knows things about her that neither of them has ever found words for. The understanding of people who have shared a long life. He rises. He takes the peat rake from its peg beside the hearth, a simple iron tool, a long handle with a flat-tined end, and draws the remaining embers together into the center of the hearth. A compact mass holds heat. Over this he places two small pieces of wood, one on either side, leaned together at a low angle. Not enough to flame tonight. Enough to keep the embers from dying entirely. Then ash. He scoops ash from the edges of the hearth and banks it carefully around and over the ember pile. A gentle covering. Not smothering, the fire needs a little air. A covering. The fire sinks under the ash. Visible, still, as a faint orange glow deep beneath. It will hold until morning. When Edith opens it in the early light and coaxes it with a few sticks, it will come back. It always does. He sets the rake back on its peg. He has banked this fire thousands of times. Edith lifts the candle. This is the signal. The lamp has been burning low for the last half hour. The candle is for the short distance to the sleeping space, 3 steps, no more, but dark enough that the light is useful. She holds it between them. They move through the partition. The sleeping space is small. A wooden bed frame with a rope lattice, a straw mattress, 2 old blankets. A hook for their outer clothes on the wall. Through the partition, a few feet away, the children are sleeping. He can hear Agnes's breathing, regular and deep. Robin is silent in the way children are silent when they are fully under. Edith sets the candle on the small shelf by the wall. He sits on the edge of the bed and removes his boots. The boots are old. He'll need new ones before winter is deep. He should speak to the cordwainer. The thought moves through him and lets go. Tomorrow. He lies down. The mattress receives him with the particular compression of old straw, settled and slightly uneven, shaped by months of the same body in the same position. He knows every contour of it. The blanket is heavy. He pulls it up. The candle is still burning. Edith at the shelf. He closes his eyes. The day moves through him in the way days do when you are tired and nearly asleep. Not thoughts, exactly. More like images that surface and pass. The flock on the hillside. The pale gold of the grass. The dark one moving through the center of the mass. Moss working the right flank without instruction. The stone in the ewe's hoof. Coming free between his thumb and the ground. The sound of her immediately corrected step. The count at the pen gate. 112. Robin's question, they know when it's dark, and his answer that he is not entirely sure he got right. Or maybe got perfectly right. Hard to say. Agnes and her thread. Edith across the fire. Edith puts out the candle. Dark. Not complete dark, a faint thread of starlight through the high small gap in the wall that serves as a window. Enough to see that the room is there. The shapes of things. Familiar. The hook on the wall. The outline of the shelf. Her breathing beside him. Settling towards sleep. He lies with his eyes open for a moment. Outside, the night. The village quiet. The hills above, dark against the stars. The pen on the slope, holding 112 animals, safe in the dark. The grass, recovering in the fields he has rested. The lambs sleeping pressed against each other. The pale-faced ewe, her steps sound now, standing somewhere in the middle of it all. Cuthbert breathes. In. Out. The work is done. The flock is in. The night holds them. Sleep. Just sleep. The hills are quiet. And all is well.